My son thought the call had ended. I heard him tell his wife, "He's too blind to see it coming." 42 years. That's how long I spent building redstone construction from nothing, bleeding through every recession, sacrificing everything so Draven would inherit something worth having. I gave him 51% ownership on his 28th birthday, handed him the keys to my life's work like I was passing down a crown. Last month, he stood in front of our board of directors and suggested my graceful retirement, said modern business needed fresh thinking. Everyone I'd hired, everyone I'd trusted for decades, just sat there, silent. But here's what Draven doesn't know about being blind. The missing money, the fake companies, the emails planning my downfall, while he thought I was too old and stupid to notice. He never bothered reading the fine print when he became CEO. Never noticed the single share of Class A stock I kept locked in my safe. The golden share with veto power over every major decision he makes, including his own removal. 3 days from now, Draven's gonna learn what happens when you mistake patience for blindness and trust for weakness. But before I show you how this ends, drop a comment and let me know. Where are you listening from right now? And hit subscribe, because what happens next will shock you more than you think possible. My name is Dante Reed. I'm 62 years old, and I've spent my entire adult life learning the difference between building something and destroying it. The year was 1982. I was 22, 3 semesters into a business degree at State. My father died when a crane cable snapped on a job site downtown. $800 in our bank account. My mother crying over bills she couldn't read because her English was still broken after 30 years in this country. My sister Elena was 16, needed money for school clothes. I dropped out that Tuesday, never looked back. Started swinging a hammer at 5 in the morning, cleaned offices until 11 at night. My hands bled for the first month. Calluses thick as leather by Christmas. Every blister was a promise to myself. Every ache in my back was fuel. I swore I'd build something that could never fall down, but I didn't know chasing that dream would cost me my son. I met Draven's mother in 1984. Sarah was a bookkeeper at the lumber yard where I bought supplies. She had this way of organizing receipts that made sense of chaos. We married 8 months later in her parents' backyard. Small ceremony, practical people. Draven arrived in 1985, 7 pounds, 2 ounces. Perfect fingers, perfect toes. I held him in the hospital and made another promise. This one was different, bigger. "You'll never have to work with your hands like your old man," I whispered into his tiny ear. "You'll build with your mind instead." Sarah died when Draven was 12. Car accident on the interstate, black ice. The funeral was standing room only because she'd kept the books for half the contractors in town. Everyone knew her handwriting. After that, it was just Draven and me. I taught him everything I thought mattered. How to read blueprints, how to calculate load-bearing walls, how to shake hands and mean it, how to keep your word even when it costs you money. Integrity is the foundation, I told him every night at dinner. Everything else is just decoration. I was building a monster and calling it love. By 1995, Redstone Construction had 12 employees. We specialized in custom homes for middle-class families. Nothing fancy, solid work, word-of-mouth reputation, the kind of business where your name means something. Draven was 10, smart as a whip. Used to sit in my home office doing homework while I balanced books. Sometimes he'd ask questions about profit margins or material costs. I'd explain everything, proud that my son understood numbers better than most adults. "Math is power, Dad," he said once, erasing a mistake in his long division. "If you control the numbers, you control everything else." I should have paid attention to that sentence. By 2005, we hit 3.2 million in annual revenue. 38 employees. Sarah's organizational system scaled perfectly. I still used her filing method for everything. Draven was 20 then, finishing his junior year at State. Business major, like I'd planned. But he wasn't interested in construction anymore. "This is small-time thinking, Dad," he said during winter break. "Real money is in financial engineering, corporate strategy. You're thinking like a tradesman when you should be thinking like an empire builder." Empire builder. Where did he learn words like that? I gave him everything I never had, and it turned him into everything I never wanted to become. 2015 changed everything. Redstone Construction landed the biggest contract in company history. Mixed-use development downtown. 85 employees. Revenue projections hitting 8 figures for the first time. Draven had his MBA from Wharton by then. 30 years old, sharp suits, sharper tongue. He'd come home for holidays and critique my business model over turkey and stuffing. "You're leaving millions on the table with this local-only strategy," he'd say, scrolling through his phone while talking. "Vertical integration, market consolidation. You could acquire 3 smaller firms and double your capacity." I nodded and smiled, proud father watching his son think bigger than I ever could. That Christmas, I made the decision that would haunt me for the next 7 years. "Come work for me," I offered over coffee the morning after Christmas. Not as an employee, as my partner, my successor. His eyes lit up for the first time in years when he looked at me. "Real partnership?" he asked. "Decision-making authority? Equity stake?" 51%, I said. "You'll be CEO within 2 years. I'll transition to Chairman Emeritus. It's your company to grow." He hugged me then. First time since his mother's funeral. I thought I was giving him the keys to the kingdom. January 2018. The lawyers spent 3 days drawing up papers that would change everything. Draven sat in my office, reviewing every clause with the intensity of a man defusing a bomb. "This gives me controlling interest," he confirmed, pointing to Section 4 with his Mont Blanc pen. 51% voting shares. CEO authority, effective immediately. "That's right," I said. "Your company now, son. I'll keep my 49% and help where you need me." What I didn't mention was the single share of Class A preferred stock I'd reserved. Call it an old man's insurance policy. Call it decades of construction experience teaching me to always have a backup plan. The lawyers called it a golden share. Buried in Article 7, Section 3 of the corporate bylaws. Veto power over any major decision. Asset sales. Executive compensation above preset limits. Removal of board members. Draven signed without reading past page 12. His salary jumped from 0 to $180,000 immediately. Company credit cards. Company car, a corner office with windows facing downtown. "This is just the beginning, Dad," he said, shaking my hand in front of the lawyers. "We're going to build something incredible together." But partners don't steal from each other. The first year was everything I'd hoped for. Draven brought energy I hadn't felt in decades. New project management software, digital marketing campaigns, client relationship systems that actually worked. Revenue grew 22%. Profit margins improved. Our reputation expanded beyond the Tri-County area for the first time. For his 29th birthday, I bought him a Tesla Model S. $95,000, midnight blue, every option checked. He cried when I handed him the keys. "You didn't have to do this, Dad." "You're growing my life's work," I told him. "This is just a small thank you." Twilight brought the pandemic, but we adapted faster than most. Essential business status. PPP loans processed smoothly. Draven's digital systems kept us operational when smaller contractors went under. That year I helped with the down payment on his Manhattan apartment. $250,000. Cash gift, no strings attached. He and Isolde deserved a place to start their marriage. Their wedding cost $85,000. I paid for everything. Open bar, 3-course dinner, string quartet for the ceremony. Draven gave a speech thanking me for making dreams possible. I sat in the front row thinking about Sarah, how proud she would have been. By 2022, I'd officially transitioned to Chairman Emeritus. Fancy title for old man who shows up twice a week to check the books. Draven ran daily operations. I handled vendor relationships and old client maintenance. I set up a home office in my den, monitored company accounts remotely, kept an eye on cash flow trends. Draven encouraged this involvement. "Your institutional knowledge is irreplaceable, Dad," he said. "I need your guidance." That guidance was about to become his worst nightmare. The monitoring software I installed wasn't spying. It was prudent business practice. Automated reports on cash flow, vendor payments, payroll discrepancies, the kind of oversight any responsible chairman would maintain. For 6 months, everything looked normal. Payroll steady, vendor relationships healthy, client satisfaction scores strong. Then I noticed the marketing budget. March 2022, $15,000 per month, standard for a company our size. April 2022, $28,000. May 2022, $35,000. By December, we were spending $42,000 monthly on marketing, nearly triple our historical average, for a business that grew through word of mouth for 4 decades. I called Draven on a Tuesday morning. "Walk me through the marketing spend," I said, spreadsheet open on my screen. "$500,000 annually seems aggressive." "Digital transformation, Dad," he replied without hesitation. "Social media campaigns, search engine optimization. We're competing with national firms now." "Show me the results," I said. "Website traffic, lead generation, conversion metrics." "I'll have Isolde pull those reports. She's handling marketing analytics now." Isolde, his wife, who'd never worked in marketing before marrying into the family. I spent the next 3 days researching our supposed digital campaigns. Google Ads account showed minimal activity. Social media posts were sporadic, unprofessional. Our website hadn't been updated since 2019. Where was $500,000 going? That's when I found the vendor that didn't exist. Pinnacle Marketing Solutions. Incorporated in Delaware 6 months after Draven took control. Monthly payments of $8,500. No contract on file. No scope of work documented. I called the number listed on their invoices. Disconnected. I searched for their office address. Mail forwarding service in Newark. I ran a corporate filing search. Registered agent. Isolde Elena Reed. My son's wife was billing my company for services that didn't exist. My stomach turned cold. That peculiar chill you feel when you realize you've been played by someone you trusted, someone you loved. I printed every invoice, every bank transfer, every email authorization. 47 separate payments over 18 months. Total theft, $186,400. My hands shook as I stacked the papers. Not from anger, not yet. From the kind of heartbreak that feels like dying while still breathing. I called our IT director, William Hayes. 20-year employee, solid man, loyal to the company culture we'd built together. "Bill, I need you to forward me any internal emails between Draven and Isolde about marketing expenses, authorization requests, budget discussions, anything financial." "That might violate privacy policies, Mr. Reed." "Bill, someone's stealing from us. I need proof." The emails arrived 2 hours later, 18 messages over 12 months. Each one a dagger through whatever remained of my paternal love. "Old man checks the books like a hawk. We need to be more careful about timing. Dad's getting suspicious about the marketing budget. Space out the transfers. He's too proud to admit he doesn't understand digital marketing. We're safe." But the worst email was still coming. August 15th, 2023. Email timestamp, 11:47 p.m. Subject line, board meeting strategy. "Tomorrow's the day we discuss Dad's transition to full retirement. I've already talked to 3 board members. They're on board with the graceful exit narrative. Old school leadership doesn't fit modern market dynamics. Dad won't fight it. He's too sentimental about company culture to cause a scene in front of people he hired. After tomorrow, he'll be out of operational oversight completely. Full control transfers to us. The theft pattern stops being a problem when there's no one left to notice it. Love you. This is happening." I read that email 17 times, each word carved deeper into my chest. My own son, planning my professional execution while stealing from the company I'd built with 40 years of blood and sweat. I walked to my bathroom and vomited until nothing came up but bile. Then I sat on my bedroom floor and cried for the first time since Sarah's funeral. Not from sadness, from rage. Pure, clean, surgical rage. By 3 a.m., the crying had stopped. The rage crystallized into something harder, something focused. I opened my safe and removed the golden share certificate I'd forgotten about for 5 years. Certificate number 001. Class A preferred stock, veto power over any major decision, including the removal of a CEO. Draven had given me everything I needed to destroy him. I called Nathan Cross at 6 a.m. Nathan had been my attorney since 1987, handled the incorporation, drafted the succession documents, knew every legal structure I'd built into Redstone construction. Dante, everything all right? It's barely sunrise. Nathan, I need to execute the nuclear option. Silence on the phone. He knew exactly what I meant. The golden share, he said finally. Are you certain? There's no coming back from that decision. I'm certain. What's the triggering event? I spent 20 minutes explaining the theft, the emails, the planned coup. Nathan listened without interruption. 35 years of legal practice had taught him when to talk and when to simply absorb information. We'll need evidence admissible in court, he said when I finished. The emails are good. Bank records are better. Do you want criminal charges or civil recovery? Both. That's scorched earth, Dante. Your son will face federal prison time. My son chose this path when he decided to steal from his family. Nathan sighed. Heavy, tired sound of a man who'd seen too many families destroy themselves over money. I'll need 48 hours to prepare the documentation. Emergency board meeting to remove CEO for cause. Asset freezing orders. Criminal referral to FBI white-collar crime division. Full forensic audit of company finances. Do it. Dante? Nathan paused. I'm sorry it came to this. I'm not, I lied. Some lessons can only be taught the hard way. Wednesday at 2 p.m. was going to change everything. Nathan spent Tuesday night preparing what he called the corporate death penalty, emergency board resolution, evidence packets for each director, FBI referral documentation, asset preservation orders. I hired a private investigator named Jake Morrison, former FBI agent, specialized in financial crimes. Jake spent 48 hours building an airtight case against Draven and Isolde. Corporate formation documents for Pinnacle Marketing Solutions, bank routing records showing fund transfers, digital forensics on company computers, pattern analysis of fraudulent invoicing. This is textbook embezzlement, Jake reported Tuesday evening. Defense counsel will recommend plea bargaining within a week. The evidence is overwhelming. Wednesday morning, I sat in my office reviewing the golden share certificate one final time. Single page, legal-size paper, signatures from 2018. The document that would end my son's career and send him to federal prison. At 1:45 p.m., I drove to the Redstone construction office for the last time as an employee. I carried a briefcase containing 47 pages of evidence and 1 page of corporate law that would change everything. The conference room smelled like leather and fresh coffee. 3 outside directors, CFO William Hayes, operations manager Lori Chen, everyone I'd worked with for decades. Draven arrived at exactly 2 p.m., confident stride, expensive suit, the walk of a man who thought he controlled the room. I didn't expect you today, Dad, he said, genuine surprise in his voice. This is just routine board business. I smiled and took my usual seat in the corner. Oh, I wouldn't miss this for the world, son. Draven called the meeting to order at 2:03 p.m. Agenda items scrolled on the wall monitor. Routine financial reports, operational updates, new business development. Before we begin, Draven announced, I want to address a difficult but necessary conversation about company leadership transition. The room temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. My father built Redstone construction into something incredible, he continued, standing behind his chair. But modern business requires different skills, market dynamics, technology integration, strategic thinking that matches current realities. I watched 3 board members avoid my eyes, men I'd hired, men I'd trusted for decades. Change is never easy, Draven said, but leadership transition is healthy for long-term growth. I've prepared a generous retirement package that honors Dad's contributions while positioning the company for future success. He opened a folder and distributed packets to each board member. $50,000 annually in consulting fees, full health benefits, office space if he wants it. We're not pushing anyone out. We're creating space for natural evolution. The silence stretched for 30 seconds, 40, a minute. Finally, board member Richard Stone cleared his throat. Dante, what are your thoughts on this proposal? I stood slowly, walked to the head of the conference table, opened my briefcase, and removed 6 identical evidence packets. Before we discuss my retirement, I said, distributing the packets, let's discuss Draven's embezzlement. The color drained from my son's face like water flowing downhill. I'm exercising my Class A shareholder rights to call for immediate CEO removal. The evidence packets hit the conference table like bombs, detonating in slow motion. Bank statements, transfer records, email screenshots, corporate formation documents for Pinnacle Marketing Solutions. This is impossible, Draven whispered, flipping through pages. You can't. There's no way you could. Page 4 shows 47 fraudulent transfers, I said, my voice steady as surgical steel. Total theft of $186,400. Page 12 documents your wife is registered agent for the shell company. Page 18 contains emails discussing how to hide the theft from your suspicious old man. Board member Susan Walsh held up an email printout. This says you planned today's meeting as cover for removing your father from oversight. Quote, full control transfers to us. The theft pattern stops being a problem when there's no one left to notice it. Draven's hands were shaking now. Real tremors. The kind that come when your entire world collapses in real time. Dad, please. We can discuss this privately. Family business shouldn't be... You made this public business when you decided to steal from my company, I interrupted. William, as CFO, what's your professional assessment of this evidence? William Hayes had gone pale as paper. This appears to be systematic fraud, deliberate, premeditated, the kind of thing that requires immediate law enforcement involvement. Lori, as operations manager, what would you recommend for an employee caught stealing company funds? Lori Chen's voice was barely audible. Immediate termination, asset recovery, criminal prosecution. I turned back to Draven, my son, the boy I'd raised, the man I'd trusted with everything I'd built. The golden share certificate gives me veto power over all major corporate decisions, I said, including the appointment and removal of executive officers. I'm exercising that power now. Dad, please, don't do this. I'm your son. My son died the day he decided to steal from his family. I looked at each board member individually. All in favor of removing Draven Reed as CEO for embezzlement and fraud? 5 hands rose in unison. Only Draven abstained. Motion carries. Security is waiting in the lobby to escort you from the building. Your company credit cards, keys, and access badges will be confiscated immediately. The silence that followed was the sound of justice being served cold. Draven walked to the door like a man heading to his execution. Shoulders slumped, face gray. The confident executive from 10 minutes earlier had been replaced by a criminal facing consequences. At the threshold, he turned back. 42 years you spent building this place, he said, tears streaming down his cheeks. 42 minutes to tear it all down. You tore it down the day you decided to steal from it, I replied. I'm just cleaning up the mess. Security escorted him through the lobby while 85 employees watched in stunned silence. Some of them had known Draven since he was a teenager, watched him grow up around construction sites and company picnics. Now they watched him leave in handcuffs. I appointed Lori Chen as interim CEO, 23 years with the company, honest, competent, everything Draven pretended to be. Can you handle the transition? I asked her after the board meeting ended. Yes, sir. What about the financial irregularities? FBI will be here tomorrow. Full forensic audit starts Monday. We're going to cooperate completely and let the justice system handle the rest. I drove home through afternoon traffic, hands steady on the wheel. No shaking, no tears, no regrets. At a red light, my phone buzzed. Text message from an unknown number. Dad, I'm sorry. Please call me. We can fix this. D. I deleted it without responding. At home, I poured 3 fingers of bourbon and sat in my chair overlooking the garden Sarah had planted 30 years ago. Her roses were blooming, red and white and yellow. She would have hated what happened today. She would have tried to find middle ground. Counseling, forgiveness, family healing. But Sarah never had to watch her son steal from her life's work. The phone rang at 11:47 p.m. Draven's number. I let it go to voicemail. 3 more calls before midnight. All ignored. Then silence. But I wasn't finished with him yet. Thursday morning, FBI agents arrived at Redstone Construction with search warrants and forensic accountants. Special Agent Maria Rodriguez had 20 years investigating white-collar crime. "This is one of the clearest fraud cases I've seen," she told me during a break in their document review. "Your son and daughter-in-law face federal charges for wire fraud, money laundering, and conspiracy. We're talking significant prison time." Friday, I received notification that the IRS was launching a parallel investigation. Draven and Isolda's personal tax returns would be audited going back 5 years. The local newspaper picked up the story Monday morning. Local construction dynasty torn apart by embezzlement scandal. Picture of me and Draven from last year's Chamber of Commerce dinner. Both of us smiling. Both of us completely unaware of what was coming. Tuesday, I drove to Draven's Manhattan apartment, the building Redstone Construction had helped him purchase, the down payment I'd gifted him for his wedding. Isolda answered the door, face swollen from crying, dark circles under her eyes. "He's not here, Mr. Reed," she said. "He's at his lawyer's office." I handed her an envelope containing eviction papers. "This apartment is owned by Redstone Construction through a subsidiary LLC. You have 30 days to vacate." "Please," she whispered, "we have nowhere else to go." "You should have thought about that before stealing from my family." I left a second envelope on the kitchen counter. Asset recovery lawsuit. Civil damages of $558,000. Triple damages for fraud, as allowed under federal law. The Tesla was repossessed Wednesday morning. Company car, company insurance, company liability. Gone. Thursday, Draven's Country Club membership was terminated. Character clause violation according to their bylaws. Friday brought the criminal indictments. Wire fraud carries up to 20 years in federal prison. Money laundering adds another 10. Conspiracy charges would run concurrent, but the sentencing guidelines were clear. My son was looking at a decade behind bars. I should have felt satisfaction. Victory. The clean completion of justice served. Instead, I felt hollow, empty, like I'd won a war by burning down my own house. But there was one final move to make. Saturday evening, I sat in my home office writing a letter. Not a legal document, not a business communication, something personal, final, handwritten on Redstone Construction letterhead, blue ink, Sarah's fountain pen that I'd kept on my desk for 20 years. 2 sentences, 43 words that summarized everything I'd learned about family, business, and the price of betrayal. A father's love has limits, respect has none. I attached the original golden share certificate, the single document that had saved my life's work and destroyed my son's future. Certificate number 001, signed in 2010 when I still believed family loyalty meant something. Sunday morning, I drove to the Redstone Construction office one final time. Unlocked Draven's former corner office with my master key, set the letter on his old desk where he'd once planned my professional execution, left the door unlocked for exactly 1 hour. I don't know if he ever came to read it. I don't know if he understood what I was trying to tell him. Some lessons can only be learned through consequences. Some bridges can only be rebuilt from both sides. I changed my will that afternoon. Draven's inheritance reduced to $1. The symbolic minimum required by law. Everything else would go to charity. Sarah's rose garden would be preserved in perpetuity. The golden share certificate stays in my safe. Reminder of the day I learned that loving someone and trusting someone are 2 completely different choices. 6 months later, Redstone Construction is thriving under Lori's leadership. Revenue up 23%. Employee morale at an all-time high. New contracts booked through next year. The industry respects us more now, not less. Transparency, integrity, the values I thought I'd taught my son but apparently only modeled. Draven pled guilty to reduced charges. 4 years in federal minimum security. Isolda received probation and community service. They lost everything except the possibility of starting over. And I learned that sometimes being a good father means letting your children face the consequences of being bad people. I established the Redstone Ethics in Business Scholarship last month. $50,000 annually for students studying corporate responsibility and business ethics. The application essay asks a simple question. What does integrity mean when no one is watching? I read every submission personally. Some kids write about returning lost wallets or reporting cheating classmates. Others discuss workplace harassment or environmental responsibility. The best essays understand that integrity isn't about being perfect. It's about accepting consequences when you fall short. Draven never applied for the scholarship. The company motto changed last year, built on trust, standing on truth. Our new marketing materials feature testimonials from clients who've worked with us for decades. 3-generation relationships, families who trust us to build their dreams because we've never broken our word. I mentor young entrepreneurs now, pro bono consulting for family businesses, navigating succession planning. The same conversation every time. Love your children enough to prepare them for life without you. Trust them enough to let them prove themselves, but protect what you've built until they earn the right to inherit it. Golden shares aren't about power. They're about responsibility. Most of these kids get it. A few don't. The ones who don't usually sound like Draven did at 25. Entitled, impatient, convinced that old wisdom is just old thinking. I wish them luck and recommend they start their own companies instead of inheriting existing ones. Tuesday mornings, I visit Sarah's grave, tell her about the business, the scholarship recipients, the families we're still helping build their dreams. I don't mention Draven. Some stories end with forgiveness and reconciliation. Hallmark card moments where love conquers all and families heal their wounds. This isn't one of those stories. This is a story about learning that respect isn't inherited, trust isn't automatic, love isn't enough to excuse theft. And sometimes the most loving thing a father can do is teach his son that choices have consequences, even when those consequences break both their hearts. The phone call came at 11:47 p.m., 6 months after the sentencing. 6 months of silence between us. Draven's voice was different, smaller. The arrogance stripped away by federal prison and the reality of losing everything he'd thought was his birthright. Dad, I know you probably won't want to hear from me. I listened without speaking. Let him fill the silence with whatever words he'd been practicing in his cell. I've had a lot of time to think about what I did, what I took from you, from the company, from myself. His voice cracked. I want you to know that I understand now why you had to do what you did. Still, I said nothing. The golden share. You tried to protect the company from people like me, people who would destroy what they didn't build. I was one of those people, wasn't I? Yes, I said quietly. You were. I'm going to be here for 3 more years. When I get out, I want to earn back the right to call you Dad again. Not the company, not money, just the right to be your son. I closed my eyes. Sarah's voice in my memory. Forgiveness isn't about forgetting. It's about choosing love over anger when love is the harder choice. That's a long road, Draven. I know, but I want to walk it. And the line went quiet for a moment that contained everything we'd lost, and maybe, someday, everything we might find again. Federal minimum security wasn't the country club people imagine. Draven wrote letters describing his daily routine, kitchen duty at 5 a.m., GED tutoring for inmates who never learned to read properly, anger management classes where grown men learn to talk about their feelings for the first time. I'm teaching a guy named Tommy how to balance a checkbook, one letter said. He's 43 years old, never had a bank account, kept his money in coffee cans his whole life. When I showed him compound interest calculations, he cried. The letters came every 2 weeks, never asking for money, never requesting visits, just updates on his progress toward becoming someone worth knowing. There's a construction crew that works on prison maintenance, another letter explained. I asked the warden if I could join them. Thought maybe I should learn what real work feels like. My hands have calluses now, Dad, for the first time. First time in my life. I kept the letters in a folder marked possibility. Not Draven, not son. Just the idea that people can change if they want to badly enough. Lori Chen visited me one Tuesday afternoon with quarterly reports and an unexpected question. Would you ever consider giving him another chance? At the company? At being family? I stared out my office window at the construction site across the street. Men in hard hats building something that would outlast them. Family isn't something you give back, I said. It's something you earn every day. 3 years and 2 months after the federal courthouse sentencing, Draven called from a halfway house in Newark. I'm out, Dad. Early release for good behavior and completing my associate degree in construction management. Congratulations. I have a job interview tomorrow. Roofing company in Camden. Entry-level position, 40 hours a week at $18 an hour. I did the math automatically. $37,000 annually. Less than he'd stolen in 3 months from Redstone Construction. That's honest work, I said. I know. I'm grateful for the chance. He paused. Dad, I want to ask you something, but I need you to know I'll understand if the answer is no. What is it? Would you be willing to meet me for coffee? Not to talk about business, not to ask for anything, just to see each other. I thought about Sarah again, about the boy who used to sit in my office doing homework while I balanced books, about the son who'd hugged me when I offered him partnership in the company I'd built with 4 decades of sweat, about the man who'd stolen from his family and planned my professional execution, about the inmate who'd learned to work with his hands and teach other men to read. Saturday morning, I said. The diner on Route 9, 7 a.m. Thank you, Dad. Don't thank me yet, I replied. We're starting from zero, Draven. You understand that? Yes, sir. I understand. Saturday morning would tell us both, if understanding was enough. He arrived 10 minutes early. I watched him through the diner window, sitting alone in a corner booth. Worn jeans, work boots, calloused hands wrapped around a coffee cup. The arrogance was gone, completely, replaced by something I hadn't seen in him since childhood, humility. I slid into the seat across from him. Up close, prison had aged him 5 years. Gray threads in his hair, lines around his eyes, the soft features of privilege replaced by the lean look of consequence. You look good, Dad. You look different. He smiled, but it wasn't the confident grin I remembered. This was smaller, more careful. I am different. Whether that's enough, I guess that's up to you. We talked for 2 hours, about his job interview, the apartment he was sharing with another ex-convict, the debt he owed to society and to me, the long road toward earning back trust that might never be fully restored. I don't expect forgiveness, he said as we stood to leave. I don't even expect a relationship, but I wanted you to see that I'm trying to become someone worthy of the Reed name again. I reached into my jacket and pulled out an envelope. Inside was a cashier's check for $5,000. What's this? First month's rent and security deposit on a decent apartment. You can't rebuild your life from a halfway house. His hand shook as he held the check. This doesn't mean I forgive you, I continued. It means I believe people can change if they want to badly enough. Prove me right. That was 2 years ago. Draven works for Morrison Roofing now. Crew supervisor, $55,000 annually. He's earned 3 promotions through the kind of work ethic I tried to teach him as a child. He rents a small apartment in Camden, drives a used Honda Civic, lives within his means for the first time in his adult life. We meet for breakfast once a month. Same diner, same booth. We talk about his job, his progress, his plans. We don't talk about Redstone Construction. We don't talk about inheritance or forgiveness, or the golden share certificate still locked in my safe. Some conversations take years to finish. Last month, he brought me something unexpected. A business plan. 22 pages of market research, financial projections, and operational strategy for a small residential roofing company. I want to start my own business, he explained. Something I build from scratch. Something I earn through my own work. The plan was good. Conservative, realistic. The kind of thinking that comes from understanding the difference between want and need, between dreaming and planning. You're not asking for money, I observed. No, sir, I'm asking for advice. From the best businessmen I know. I read through the plan twice, found 3 areas that needed strengthening, and 4 competitive advantages he hadn't recognized. Fix these issues, I said, sliding the plan back across the table. Then we'll talk about a small business loan, market rates, full documentation, no family discount. He smiled the way Sarah used to smile when she was proud of something. The golden share certificate sits in my safe next to Sarah's jewelry and the deed to our house. I look at it sometimes when I'm updating my will or organizing important papers. Certificate number 01. The document that saved my company and destroyed my son's criminal career. The piece of paper that taught us both the difference between love and trust, between forgiveness and enablement. I've never regretted using it, but I'm not sure I'll ever need it again. Draven's business plan was approved for a $40,000 SBA loan last month. He signed a lease on a small warehouse space in Camden, hired 2 employees, filed for a business license under the name Redstone Roofing Solutions. He asked permission to use the family name. I said yes, not because I've forgotten what he did, not because 4 years of consequences erased 18 months of theft, but because redemption isn't about returning to who you were before. It's about becoming someone better than you ever thought possible. The scholarship program continues. $50,000 annually for students studying business ethics. This year's winner wrote about her father, an immigrant who built a restaurant empire through honest work and fair dealing with employees. He taught me that integrity is the only inheritance that can't be stolen, she wrote. I called her personally to congratulate her, told her about my own father, who died building something he believed in. Some lessons skip generations. Some truths wait for the right person to hear them. 6 months ago, I found something unexpected in my office mailbox. An envelope with no return address, postmarked from Camden. Inside was a single sheet of paper, handwritten, blue ink. Careful cursive letters that looked like the penmanship exercises Sarah used to make Draven practice at the kitchen table. Dad, I found your letter on my old desk the day after I was released. The one with the golden share certificate. A father's love has limits. Respect has none. I've read those 2 sentences every day for 3 years, trying to understand what they meant, trying to figure out what you were telling me. I think I understand now. You could have destroyed me completely. Criminal charges, civil suits, public humiliation, personal bankruptcy. You had the power to make sure I never recovered from what I did. But you didn't. You gave me consequences, real ones, life-changing ones. But you left the door open for redemption if I was strong enough to walk through it. The golden share wasn't about power. It was about responsibility. The responsibility to protect what matters, to stand up for what's right, to love people enough to let them face the truth about themselves. I'm still earning the right to call you Dad again, but I want you to know that I finally understand what the Reed name means. It means building something that lasts, something worth protecting, something worth the consequences of defending. Thank you for loving me enough to let me learn that lesson the hard way. Your son, when I've earned it, Draven. I kept that letter in my wallet for a week before responding. Read it during lunch breaks, before bed, sitting in my car after visiting Sarah's grave. When I finally wrote back, I used the same blue ink, the same fountain pen, 2 sentences that completed a conversation we'd been having for 5 years. Respect isn't inherited. It's earned every day through the choices we make when no one is watching. I mailed it to his apartment in Camden. No return address, no signature, just the truth we'd both learned the hard way. 3 days later, my phone rang at 7 p.m. Dad, hello, son. The first time I'd called him that in 5 years, the word felt foreign on my tongue, like speaking a language I'd forgotten how to use. I got your letter. Good. Does this mean, are we okay? I thought about that question for a long time. Were we okay? Could we ever be the family we were before? Should we even try? We're not okay, I said finally, but we might be someday, if we keep working at it. I'd like that. So would I. The conversation lasted 20 minutes. We talked about his business, my health, the weather, normal things that normal fathers and sons discuss when they're trying to find their way back to each other. When I hung up, I realized I was smiling for the first time in 5 years. Today marks exactly 6 years since I heard my son say I was too blind to see his plan to destroy everything I'd built. 6 years since I discovered that the boy I'd raised had become a man I didn't recognize. Redstone Construction employs 93 people now. Revenue last year exceeded $12 million. We've built homes for 400 families, office buildings for 37 businesses, and a reputation that spans 3 states. Draven's company, Redstone Roofing Solutions, just completed its first year in business. $68,000 in revenue, 11 projects, 0 customer complaints. He pays his taxes quarterly and his employees above market rate. He's engaged to a woman named Catherine. She's a teacher, elementary school, 3rd grade. She knows his history, knows about the prison sentence and the family betrayal and the long road back to respectability. She loves him anyway. The wedding is next spring. He asked me to walk Catherine down the aisle because her father passed away when she was 15. I said yes. Not because I've forgotten what Draven did to our family. Not because time has erased the consequences of his choices, but because forgiveness isn't about forgetting. It's about choosing love over anger when love is the harder choice. The golden share certificate stays in my safe. Insurance policy against my own optimism. Reminder that trust is earned daily and lost in an instant. But some risks are worth taking. Some bridges are worth rebuilding. Some sons are worth loving through the hardest lessons life can teach. The scholarship recipients from the past 6 years have gone on to extraordinary things. Sarah Martinez started a nonprofit providing microloans to immigrant entrepreneurs. James Williams became a whistleblower who exposed accounting fraud at a major corporation. Lisa Chen developed an ethics training program now used by Fortune 500 companies. Each of them understood that integrity isn't about being perfect. It's about accepting responsibility when you fall short and working every day to become someone worthy of the trust people place in you. I read their letters when doubt creeps in about second chances and the possibility of redemption. Their words remind me that people can change if they want to badly enough, and if they're willing to do the work required to earn back what they've lost. Draven is doing that work every morning at 6 a.m. when he reports to job sites, every evening when he studies business management courses at community college, every month when he makes his loan payments on time, and every conversation where he chooses honesty over convenience. He's building a reputation one day at a time, one project at a time, one right choice at a time. The way I built Redstone Construction 40 years ago, the way his grandfather built the foundation that kept our family standing when everything else fell apart. Some lessons take generations to learn. Some truths can only be understood through experience. Some grace can only be received by those who've lost everything and chosen to start over anyway. This is the story of how a father and son learned that love without boundaries isn't love at all, and how a single legal document taught us both the difference between enabling and empowering, between trust and faith, between the family you're born into and the family you choose to become. The Golden Share taught me something I never expected to learn, that the strongest foundations aren't built from stone and steel. They're built from principles that don't bend when pressure is applied. Draven learned something too, that real wealth isn't measured in bank accounts or company valuations. It's measured in the respect of people who know your character and choose to trust you anyway. 6 years ago, I thought I was destroying my son's future when I activated that Golden Share certificate. I was actually saving it. Because futures built on theft and betrayal don't last. They collapse under their own weight, taking everyone down with them. But futures built on accountability and earned trust, those can support any amount of weight you want to place on them. Sarah would be proud of the man Draven has become, not because he's perfect now, but because he's honest about his imperfections, and working every day to be better than he was yesterday. She would be proud of the man I've become too. Not because I was strong enough to forgive, but because I was strong enough to hold my son accountable for his choices and love him through the consequences. The Redstone name means something again, in both our companies, in both our lives. It means that some things are worth building, some things are worth protecting, and some things are worth the cost of defending them, even when that cost breaks your heart and teaches you lessons you never wanted to learn. The story ends where it began, with a phone call and a choice about what kind of man you want to be when no one is watching. Last week, Draven called with news about a potential contract. Municipal roofing project. $300,000. The biggest job his company has ever been considered for. They want references, he said. Business relationships. Character witnesses. People who can vouch for my integrity. What did you tell them? I told them the truth. That I made serious mistakes. Paid serious consequences. Learned serious lessons. And that if they wanted to know about my character now, they should talk to the man who taught me what character means. You gave them my number? If that's okay with you. I thought about the golden share certificate in my safe, about the boy who used to help me balance books in my home office, about the man who stole from his family and the inmate who learned to work with his hands, about the son who chose redemption over resentment, and the father who chose accountability over enablement. It's okay with me, son. Thank you, Dad. Don't thank me yet. Earn it. Yes, sir, I will. When the city manager called for that reference, I told him the truth. All of it. The theft. The prison sentence. The long road back to respectability. And I told him that Draven Reed is the kind of man you want, building something that needs to last. Because that's what the golden share really taught us. That character isn't about never falling down. It's about how you choose to get back up.